Good evening, everyone, and happy Sunday night from Unlock the Middle here in Greater New England area. My name is Dean Packard. I am the proud principal of Baypath Regional Vocational Technical High School in Charlton, Massachusetts. And alongside of me, I have the co-founder of Unlock the Middle, Chris Starcheski. It's great to see you, man. I know you've been out on a family sabbatical for a while, but it's so good to have you back. But I get the importance of family, Chris. And first and foremost, it's great to see you. How have you been, man, and how are things going?
Absolutely awesome, Dean. You know, this stage in life with one daughter in college, another going in high school, and another entering the seventh grade, travel, baseball, dance, everything associated with being a dad. It takes a significant amount of time. But as you know, as a middle school principal, the other 90% of life gets taken over quickly by everything else. So I appreciate you for holding down the fort as I've been in and out in the last, about 9 to 10 months. But, I'll be getting back into the fold, and this is a great time to do it. We've got a great show tonight, Dean.
And we do, yeah. And that's a blink of an eye. And a quick shout out to Josh Tovar from behind the scenes, our great friend from Texas, who's traveling with his family right now and not here. But I'll tell you what, he's here in spirit. He did a lot of pre-work for us, and he always does. Josh is just a great man. He's a real proud individual who helps Unlock the Middle just do great things. So, hey, everything's great, Chris, and I'm glad you're back. And I'll tell you what, Sunday nights, as we've always said, it's about iron sharpening iron and finding these great personalities from around the country and just talking about education and its in the entirety of itself. So, I mean, it's great, man. And I'll tell you, I'm not going to lie to you. I missed you, and it's good to see you. And I'm so happy you got a new job like me, and we're starting new careers, and we're starting new pathways, and it's so invigorating, and I'm sure you agree.
It's definitely great. The soul is fired up, and, the work that I've done has been phenomenal, and the crew that I've worked with, absolutely top notch. And the experience coming forward, though, I'm really eager to hit the ground running. Had a great opportunity to meet a number of families and kids, as well as some faculty and staff from Grafton at my meet and greet the other day at the Grafton Public Library. And it's just great to be welcomed into a new community and be able to get firing on all cylinders. But hey, that's enough about us. Nobody wants to hear
about us. We got Jeff Kubiak from outside of Sacramento here. Come on in, Jeff. Jeff, how are you, man? So good that you guys have joined us tonight. How are you?
Awesome. How you guys doing? Great to see you.
Hey, we're doing really, really well. Thanks so much. Hey, Jeff, very quickly, and I know that Josh had reached out to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man, what you're doing, how you got there, a little bit about your story. I mean, we've been blessed to have people from all around the country and around the world on our show, and you're just going to be another one of those positive ripple guys, which I can't wait to hear what it's all about. So I'm going to just turn it over to you for a second, and just a little bit about yourself, your origin, your story, the different roles you served in public education.
Yeah, super stoked to be here. I'm blessed. So thank you guys. Public education started out, as a teacher. I never thought I'd teach. Mom taught high school for 35 years, and that was definitely nothing I would, wanted. So, I was also, I'm a former, at one time world-class athlete, and I'm a swimmer. And so I started coaching as well. So, coaching, swimming, and teaching.
Let's talk about that world-class athlete. I didn't mean to stop you for a second. You can't drop that nugget without elaborating. What does that mean? What does that look like?
Back in the day, I did real well. I was on the U.S. national team, and in '88 I was third at Olympic trials, missed the team by 1200ths in the 200-meter breaststroke. And, of course, with some of the glories in the trials came some deep, dark depression. And now I'm in year 3.5 of my sobriety. So that was part of my fall, right? And so, getting back to the nuggets of it. So, I coached, and I had the luxury of coaching 2 Olympians, Jason Lezak, Mark Workington. Got to coach a lot of places, travel, and swimming is in my blood. And, coaching and teaching really went well together. You're in the grind all day with your students, get off, run to the pool. You got another great group of kids to work with. So I started off as a teacher, grades 4, 5, and 6. I was a dean of students at a K-8 school. Then I became a vice principal for a couple years. And then, of course, I'll never become a principal. And I was a principal for 6 years, right? And so did that. And then now my current role, starting at my 3rd school year as a vice principal in the Elk Grove Unified School District, and I serve students in South Sacramento, which is a pretty broken and rough neighborhood and area. And this is a group of kids that really need the male love and the positive role model and leadership that we can give them. So it's tough work. It's amazing work. It's hard work, but it's fantastic.
I love that. And, Chris, before you go, so talk a little bit about the experience of being at that level of swimming and what it took to get there. Before we ask you any other questions, that is just in another stratosphere.
Yeah, I was a good athlete growing up. Swam and played water polo, and then went to a Division II college and did really well under a guy named Pete Accardi, who's no longer with us. And I kind of hit my strides there, and really focused and did all the work, and went to the Pan American Games and won a gold medal there, and I won U.S. national titles and American record holder in a relay, and then I did real well. And going into the '88 Olympic trials in March at U.S. Nationals, I won the 200-meter breaststroke. My time at the time was ranked #1 in the world. Everything was, grown great. And then you get to the Olympic trials, and that's the wonderful thing about athletics, right? You have to fire on every cylinder at the time you need it. And I had a crappy morning swim. So you have your trial swim, and then you have your finals, and put me in lane 1 at night, and just wasn't there. Missed by, like I said, 0.12. And the great thing about sport is that one day you're amazing, next day you're not, but it's all about the grit and resilience. Did come back, and I still did some good things after that, but had an injury and just kind of spiraled from there. But yeah, I mean, to wear USA on your back and
cool.
to travel the globe, it's a pretty special thing.
Yeah, good for you, man. That's so cool to hear. No doubt about that. Chris?
Jeff, man, listening to just the intro to your story, the hairs on the back of the neck stand up. I knew you were a rock star educator. I knew you were a rock star person, but then I find out that you're an amazing world-class athlete, and you've got all these other kernels.
Humble. That's what I like about that.
And he's a humble dude. He takes it one day at a time. But listening to the story, mom's a 35-year educator. I'm never going to be an educator, and you just get people right. You're on the humanistic side of things. You must have a really high EQ beyond just the IQ and the physical quotient. If you could talk to us a little bit about the role models that have influenced you to enter into education, and who currently motivates you to really just keep vibrant in education.
Right. So, so it's funny. My mom, she taught high school at not the easiest place to teach. And she taught almost every subject that you can. I mean, she started off with home ec and foods and clothing, but then she also taught the sciences. Then she went into the math. So basically anything except like auto and language she taught. And, in 9th grade, when I was serving a week suspension, I had to go hang out at her school for a week and watch.
You're not going to ask about that, Jeff. You're not going to ask. Although you might want to disclose now, but nevertheless,
just doing things that we think are funny at the time.
There you go. Fair enough. We all get kids.
But just watching her, and then prior to that, I had this 6th grade teacher named Mrs. Sherry that just made life better for me. She got me. She got my ADHD. She got my inability to learn in your traditional setting. And she was phenomenal. And so she really triggered something that was like, God, this is pretty cool. And then I loved teaching swimming and coaching. And, that's what teaching is, right? And in different mediums. And so one of my great principals at the time, her name is Chris Corey. She's the current superintendent in Fairfield Sassoon. She, God, Jeff, you got to get your admin credential. I think you're doing great. And I'm like, never. And of course, boom, Sonoma State. A couple of years later, I got it. And when you have an amazing wife that supports your young kid and you doing all your things, it came true. And I'm super stoked. So kind of going through that. And then now looking at our education, I got a buddy named Greg Moffat who moved from my area, was a principal there. And now he's in the greater DC area training principals on doing some amazing things. And, people like Saba Kidwa, who's doing a lot of design learning and AI stuff, and Rochelle Poth, Amanda Fox, John Carippo, who's our Edu Protocol guy. And, so I see the work that we do as a collective group, like the assistant principals and vice principals and principals. And it's just, it's timeless, it's selfless, it's endless. And it's just so much soul that we give and that people give out there. And then when you go on social media and to share the wisdom and share the knowledge and share the love of what we do, that's what makes us all better. And, a couple months ago when I was on the show, a different show, and met Dean, and, these guys, we're brainstorming, we're throwing around things super quick and thinking it's just support and it's love. And it's just like this kick-ass group of people who just want nothing except to better other people. And I just love that.
That's awesome. And that's how Dean and I started this 3 years ago, because we were sitting down in COVID wondering what we could do to keep ourselves fresh and also survive. And we came up with this idea of unlock the middle. I still have the notebook, Dean, that has the draft of the silly names and the silly symbols about what it is we were trying to capture. And I'm psyched to be back.
Yeah. Hey, and I've moved on to high school, so I'm not in the middle anymore, but my roots are there. And I love what you said, Jeff. I got to tell you what, I'm going to circle back for a second. I want to talk to you a little bit about being a student. How were you as a student? And I want to really tap into that suspension that you got, because I get kids and I get silly decisions. But talk about how you were as a student and how your parents influenced you to get where you needed to be.
Well, I was horrible. I mean, I was the class clown. I couldn't sit still. School was hard for me. I loved the reading part and writing. It kind of came naturally to me. And I loved to get up and talk in front of the class. Math was something that didn't work for me. Both my parents were super smart. Dad's no longer with us, but he was a big science math guy. And they were super supportive, but they worked their butts off and they weren't always around. Right. And so, growing up in the going to school in the early 70s, teachers were a little bit hardcore. In fifth grade, I got knocked around physically by teachers because I wouldn't shut my mouth, and it was hard, and I hated school. Yeah. But then every few years or whatever, you get like a Mrs. Sherry, or you get like this guy that just like dug it and wanted to get to know you, and hey, hang out and play chess, and let's talk, and Jeff, why don't you try this? And then like really, tap in. And that, we always say that relationships are the most important. And it's not a cliche or a tagline. It really does mean something, because we get these kids, we don't know what happens the second they walk in that door at home. And I know at my school, there are so many black and brown boys that have parents or, men in jail, prison. They're without dads or without role models. Gosh darn it, you know what? I'm sorry, but if you don't want to be a role model to be an educator, you're going to have to. You're going to have to suck it up and get to know these kids and dive deeper, because the Jeffs as a kid, there are so many of them that have so many needs. And we've got to be able to be there for them.
Agreed, 100%.
Listening to you talk in terms of, kind of that world view and perspective, really getting that, what kids need. And a lot of your own experiences in there, Jeff, very, very similar to mine. And I'm sure some of Dean's, as we sit down and think about the challenges that we've experienced. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about that admin experience, that leadership experience that you were like, no way. What is authentic leadership to you, and how do you bring to the table real authentic leadership in your role?
Well, I think to me, I didn't really encounter or embrace authentic leadership until I became sober. Part of my disability with recovery before I started was that, I was always agitated. Like, I just be super animated, but I wasn't the best at being kind and compassionate and leading the right way. I think I had great ideas, and great systems, but I couldn't execute it because of what was happening in my brain. And so, to be, authentic is to be real and to be vulnerable and to let people know that, hey, I might be on a path today that I don't know how I'm going to encounter it. I might not have the right helmet and riding boots on, but let's try this together because I think it could be a really cool thing. And to remember that checking in to every single, teacher and staff member honestly and passionately and with pure compassion and caring, like, dude, are you okay? Are you actually all right? Because I see someone different today than I saw yesterday who was like, laughing and having fun with the kids. I see some stress. Are you okay? And like, what can we do about it? How can we help? Right. And, we're getting these great mental health and trauma resources at our school for the students. Don't have them for the adults. And the last 3 years, I've seen so many adult issues with trauma and mental health that I've never encountered. And I think that really brings in the whole authenticity is like, what can I learn to do about it? How can I break barriers at HR or, through our own kind of like Emerald City systems to get that teacher the health support they need, the counseling, the what.
Mm.
And so finding a new way to support at a new level and just doing it with being okay with being wrong.
Yes. You talked about breaking barriers, man. And I love that. Chris and I are universal design people, and we understand that in order for kids to be successful and adults to be successful, you got to have synergy. You got to have some sort of way to connect and understand and have systems in place that are going to lead to time and efficiency. And, the longer I'm in this business, the more that I see that people are in silos and people are trying to, not everybody, but they just sometimes don't understand the power of collaboration and the power of allowing people to collaborate at a high level. And to me, it's probably the single most important thing to understand as a leader. And I'm sure you probably concur with that. What are some of the qualities you think that are needed to become that true servant leader, Jeff? That that person that we all get leadership's about listening, empowering, champion, providing capacity for. But what's your thoughts on that for that?
Well, like to kind of walk on the weird tightrope. I think you can't be a politician. Looking at the whole Florida, like black people were served better by slavery, and let's ban books, and let's not see color, right? So there's so many things that we as educators, especially, entitled white guy right here, I have to do better by trying to learn someone's story,
Yeah.
to understand and be empathetic, compassionate, and having an idea about, wow, that's something I don't understand. Can you help me? Right. And so the more we tap into that helps us a little bit, but also like seeing people for what they truly are and who they want to be and giving them the kind of like the empowerment and resource. Hey, go for it, go find it, tap in. Let me see if I can help you do that. I've never whatever coded or done this or this. Hey, let's see if we can do it together. And then also being like honest and emotional about, hey, this was my background. You know what, I had a rough time too. Maybe it's different than yours, but let me share it with you to see if I can help you experience something different. And so now, you're building your community as you go, and we're learning to embrace differences. We're understanding each other's differences. We don't have to love the differences, but we have to be aware that they are there and identify them. And then that's, I think, how you get, a more well-oiled machine that's going to just really be able to kind of, move in the weird ways that our education system is.
I love that.
As I sit down and listen to you, Jeff, what I really hear is, the idea of servant leadership is deeply embedded in your practice. And as instructional leaders, we've got so many different roles and hats that we need to wear on a daily basis. But if you think about that true instructional leader, what's the difference between somebody who's leading a campus that's graded as an F versus somebody who's leading a campus that's graded as an A? What does it look like? What type of shifts and what type of adjustments?
What's happening in the classroom? How are my teachers embracing, understanding, connecting to their students? Are they showing them the love the second they walk in, or are they raising their voices? Are they picking on certain, types, individuals? And like, what's their instruction look like? Is it that everyone's on their device and has 65 tabs open until the teacher walks around and figures it out because they're sitting the whole time? Or do we see kids talking and solving and laughing and getting frustrated and learning to work things? Do we see Socratic seminars and like with that super high engagement comes things that will really show what the learning and that like servitude is. And you get all these $1 million of computers and Chromebooks and stuff, but if we don't know how to let the kids drive what they think is important as well, we're not doing them service. Because like everyone knows, you guys knows, the jobs they're going to have in 5, 10, 20 years don't exist now, and we've never even heard of them. And so why not let them, especially with us in the middle and high school, they've got to be able to like put the keys in, strap on that seatbelt, and take a drive. And if we're not allowing them and helping them pave the way, then but to me, it starts the minute they see that teacher and open that classroom door.
I love it. I'm hearing you describe, the basics of a high functioning classroom, right? If the classroom's got it going on and the leader supports the teachers, maybe gives a kernel of idea or maybe gives some resources that they didn't have before, they're just going to continue that flywheel effect and get going. Thanks for breaking it down and making it super simple, for some of us to understand.
Yeah, I mean, the classroom then becomes the lunchroom, which becomes the yard and everything. And like, you're totally synergistic, and kids are able to negotiate and navigate and figure each other out.
That transformation is not easy in a lot of schools, and it takes a lot of work to go from that style of teaching of being an autocratic, standing in front, non-active, non-student engagement, non-student focused, to shift that. And UDL does a lot of that for teachers.
Yeah.
When you start talking about removing barriers so kids can be successful and given access points to learning, man, that excites me, because that's the reason why we got into education. And creating that trough for all educators to drink from sometimes isn't the easiest thing to do. However, I think it's important that you continue to preach that. And I love that, Jeff. Thanks for saying that. Hey, Jeff, what is a lead learner in your opinion? What does that mean? What I mean, I get from the top what it looks like to be the principal, the vice principal, and hold that title. But a lead learner means what to you?
Well, it's funny because, we have so many of these cool terms that can mean so many different things, like, lifelong learner and lead learner. Like, are you actually learning? Do you know anything about the curriculum being used in our classrooms? Do you know about the technology? And could you actually walk in there, me as a VP, can I walk in there and continue the lesson if one of my teachers is sick or whatever? Yes, I've had to do that over the last 3 years because of COVID and what's going on, all the sub days. But it's to me, it is someone who is willing to go all the length to help figure out what is needed to know, understand, or at least get a little crack of the notebook of, in order for others to see that and follow behind. And so, or follow next to, right? Because, I don't want to lead Dean by being in front of him. I want Dean right here, arm around. We're going in the trenches together, or Dean is in front of me. But we have to show our staff that, we're going to do that PD, and we're going to understand new things, and we're going to try new things. And that learning really is important, and those kids see it too. But once we stop learning, then we start dying. That's kind of my
great point.
Man, I'm glad I don't have to change my Twitter tag. Thanks, Jeff. I do believe that walking alongside and slightly in front of at times, and also slightly behind, is the essential way to go about it. And being in a new role, a new school, much like Dean, while I stayed in the middle, Dean moved on up to the big, scary high school. The idea about lead learning is consuming and imparting knowledge. It's not about having the answers. It's about the willingness to do the work that you're asking others to do. So I'm psyched I don't have to change my Twitter tag, but thanks for that. But speaking of Twitter and social media, I'd love for you to extend on an idea about sharing your story, controlling the narrative. How do you go ahead and really effectively counter the narrative in the world and embrace and share the information about your school?
Right, I think it's just putting out that content, and if there's a lot of kids that you can't share the pictures of, you just share that content. What are teachers doing? What's happening? What are the exciting things? How can parents get in touch with you? Are you inviting the community in? And you start with your own school, your school district, then you go to your county and all that kind of stuff. And I think the more content that you put out that is easily digestible and people can have in small bites, then it's just going to keep going. And then to be connected with people and get to know them and get to know like the three of us right here. And so, oh, okay, Chris has this really cool idea, or Dean does. I'm going to try it here, and then I'm sharing the word. And so, the whole viral and social and this, but I think it's got to be consumable. And to me, it's got to be consumable in fairly small bites, because I think with the amount of content out there and the amount of variety, we want to taste the best flavored lollipops that we can. So I don't know. That's kind of my thing.
Jeff, talk a little bit about from where you sit right now. How do you tell the narrative to your learning community? What are you doing? Guys like Josh Tovar, Chris Starcheski, I'd like to say Dean Packard someday. We're really good at, telling the story behind the walls, because in public education, guess what? If you don't tell the story, someone else is going to. What are you doing specifically yourself to tell the story of your school?
So, I throw a lot of tidbits out on
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Hold on one second. Josh Tovar, right down below if you read that right there.
Sweet. Okay. With Blockbuster and Monkey Wars.
That is a staple line right there. Tovar, we're missing you, man. I'm glad you got that in there. Appreciate it.
I love the beta tape, Josh. That is as good as it gets.
Sure is.
Yeah. Let me just put down my brick phone and turn off my, my old Mac Classic. Being authentic, and I think not showing things to show, but showing things for people to understand and see. And then I think if they see that and think, oh wow, that this guy is always showing this type of thing, and it looks authentic, and you're showing maybe that kids are actually doing or struggling and learning, and teachers that have broken a barrier or done something new and different. And trying to read and to look at what are the challenges that my school district and my school are going to be facing this year. And is it a budget shortfall? Is it a lack of men on campus? How can I get more men yard supervisors, right? Because that's my boys need them. How can I find something different that we didn't do last year, when maybe I had some kids have some panic attacks or some behaviors that because they were super confused and couldn't figure things out. And so my goal this year is to limit the behaviors that are unwanted to the own child, not only to us, but then and to get kids to figure out the why, and to help them connect with their inner self and to learn about it's okay. Because I still have struggles with that, right? And so I think authentic, and I think being real and transparent, and no BS, like, here, I'm Disney, see what I can do, right? So I think people can see through that.
I'm glad you said that. Chris and I over the last several years have been middle school principals. And, kids between 10 and 14, they just spiral. And when you talk about teaching them about the why and the purpose of school, it's probably the single most important thing you can keep drilling into them. I'm going to learn very quickly what it means to do that to a 9th through 12th grader who's a little bit bigger, a little bit smarter, and understands, and now they have career pathways. I'm in a vocational school, so it's just so much more important. But when I start thinking about that, and the journey through adolescence is so important for any leader or any teacher to catch that and continuously pound that home, because they don't get that. They think school sometimes is a chore for them. And you said, and sort of like me back when I was young, I never took school seriously. I didn't realize school until I went to graduate school. I thought it was just something I had to do. And Chris, don't shake your head, because I know you were a great student all the way through. That's why I have you next to me, okay? You're one of those guys who just get things. But I can understand with that type of child who struggles a little bit. And you get them in your office as an assistant principal right now. And, how do you deal with them? How do you get them back on track?
I usually just sit for a minute or two and either listen to them not want to talk, listen to them yell and scream at me. I always have coloring pages, and I've got like chill music. I just said, let me know when you're ready. I am here. I'm not leaving. I can help you if you feel like you're going to let me. Usually get them some water, maybe a snack. I have a lot of kids that are hungry.
Yep.
But you just give them that time, man, and give them that attention, and looking at them say, you know what? I'm here. Mr. K has your back 180 days. Plus, if you ever need me at any other time, man, but just like being there and not like picking up the phone or, being on your phone or whatever. Like, hey, you ever played, Jenga, Connect Four, chess? Or like, huh? Half of them don't know board games, right? And so I try to introduce them to board games too, and just get them to just like think and feel and chill, and then we can move on.
You just introduced universal design for connectivity for kids, because what you just did, I took the learning out of there, but put connectivity. You met them where they were at. All too often, I see sometimes leaders come at them with an iron fist. And I'll tell you, you hit situations like that with an iron fist, you get combustion. You get nothing. And what you get is you get an inability to relate to the child in the moment. So I'm so glad you said that. And for all you leaders out there, hear that out. Meet them where they're at, wait them out, let them get comfortable, find their entry point to that conversation, because it's so vitally important. Hey, Jeff, I'm going to swing back for a second. I have that last question for you. How do we celebrate in the reflections of the daily gains in school? What do you do right now from your associate seat as the principal to celebrate those gains, and how do you build capacity within your staff and your students?
I get in to the classrooms. I love to leave thank you notes. Hey, thanks for mentioning X, Y, or Z during this lesson, or thanks for noticing that kid in the corner. And just like I always kind of bring it back to the I got your back, not I gotcha, right? And
love it
to get rid of those gotchas, right? Yeah. And when the kids see you in there getting on the ground and like, hey, what are you doing? Show me. Can you help me? Because I don't know what you're doing. And so you're in there playing with them or learning with them or figuring out, a new way for them to do, double long division, or they're writing stories. And so just, I think, embedding yourself in the community, then capacity grows with that, because people want to join your group when you do that. And they're saying that, that this guy really cares about me. He's in. And also when that teacher says, hey, you know what? I really do need some assistance with this kid. Usually I got it. They're not the, ones like, oh, he won't stop calling out. Like, bro, deal with it, And so like you're in there and you got their back when they're really having a struggling kid, or their class is just needs to be evacuated because something. Then they're seeing that like, gosh, you know what? I'm going to do anything I can at this school because this guy does it and these kids need it, right? And so once they feel that, I think the capacity is just like never ending, right? It's just like gigabytes all the way, terabytes, whatever. What's after terabyte?
All the above. I don't know, man. You hit all the buttons, man. And I'll tell you what, I think that your time as a principal has helped you become an even better assistant principal. Because if you think about it, when you're up here and you see, I mean, I love my 4 years being an assistant principal. It was probably the time that I related most closely with kids ever. And I still try to do the same as principal, but you become more of a guiding force, like above their heads. And,
Right.
And I hate that part of my job because kids only know the true you when you give them the true you. And I say that all the time. And I also love the phrase, and I said this today in a tweet, when passion meets opportunity, great things happen in schools. And it's absolutely 100% correct. And sort of talking about passion, Chris is going to ask you a little bit about those 3 books that you wrote that kind of led you to just go down that road of being more than just that servant leader. Chris?
So Jeff, 3 book titles to your credit, right now. Who are the audiences and what really motivated them? One Drop of Kindness, It's Me, and Monsters Have Manners.
Right. So, One Drop of Kindness came out of kind of, several years ago, there was some political unrest, and I think things got really ugly, and social media made it more allowable and easy. And I just thought, God, we could use kindness everywhere. And so, while this is written, kind of for, 6 to 12, 6 to 14 years old, it's a discussion and a topic I think that doesn't go away and everyone can use more of. And so this is about a young kid's journey, that he was an orphan. He was kind of kicked around a lot, and he lost his mom and hated the world until something and someone came into his world that helped him figure out that kindness was in his heart the whole time. Right. And because we really do all have it, but it's very difficult for some, and it's almost impossible for others, and some it's so easy. So if we can kind of, help spread that word, makes it a little easier. And then the next book this is really a big one for me, because It's Me talks about true stories, little vignettes that are written all by these people, students, teachers, people that have been prejudiced and biased against. And, it's got people with disabilities, people that a homeless student, second language learners, kids in a wheelchair, Muslim American, ADHD. And it's like, hey, see me, please see me. This is who I am. And this is what I need you to do to help me, understand that. And so that one I really love for middle and high school, because it's got some, boundary breakers in there. And then the last one is just super fun. Recently came out. Teacher Goals is the publisher, and my son did the original artwork a few years ago. Then they were digitized and cleaned up. But Monsters Have Manners, just a fun story about monsters showing a kid that manners actually do matter, and everyone should be using them. So, I'm a huge fan of books. Literacy is huge, and I hope all the banned books become the best sellers, and books are just too important, and they're wonderful to have around. And I'm old school, I like to feel a book when I read it.
Yeah.
But so it's been kind of a fun journey, writing books and sharing with my family and getting the message out there too, that, if I can help someone do something a little bit better, then that makes me do something better too. So
powerful messages about kindness, inclusivity, and just being better, all in all. And
right.
It's fantastic. Right. Hey, where can we find these books, Jeff? Are they out on Amazon?
Yeah, jeffkubiak.com is my website, but all the books are on Amazon.
Sweet.
The first 2 were EduMatch published, and the last one is Teacher Goals. And I do a lot of read alouds with classrooms and schools and all sorts of cool things. So love to connect with people that way too.
Could you send pictures of the books to us, DM them, because I want to send them out with this video so everybody knows that. And I'll put a caption on where to get them. First and foremost, I think it's good. And Jeff, I just off the script, I just want to get your perspective on equity and inclusion and what that's like in public schools today, because this is what I say to everybody in public school. We are responsible for every child that walks through our door.
Yes,
I
we
don't
are.
care what their background, their race, religion, their identity. We are responsible to teach them. What does equity inclusion mean to you, Jeff?
Well, what it means and what I see are two different things right now. But
And good point.
equity, yeah. So equity is, it's really providing the structures and resources to enable and empower every single person so they are getting what they need to thrive, and not only thrive but hopefully become epic. And so is that a student, is that a staff member, whatever it is it you know the right fitting clothes, is it a braille book, is it breakfast in the morning, is it an additional trauma ace resource? What is it that's going to help that person thrive the way other people get to thrive that don't need those, right? And so um, it, it, it's something, unfortunately, that I don't see very much. And you can kind of look at any place across and see the lack of equity, right? And just because Josh needs it doesn't mean I do. And so if I already understand the concept, or I'm thriving and killing it in the classroom, but right next to me, this kid still doesn't speak English, or he can't see very well, or his clothes smells because he's slept in his car for 6 weeks. What am I doing to give him a chance? Because if we're looking at FAPE, right, free and appropriate public education, then every single kid needs everything they need, and it's crazy. Like, and then inclusivity is, I don't have to love and embrace every single thing that you guys do. But for me to help be inclusive in our work is I have to, I think, be empathetic, compassionate, and understand what we're all trying to do together. And if we can do it in unison and accept and understand, that's great. We don't have to be best buddies in the world, but we have to learn to collaborate and understand our differences. And we can't shut anyone out. Um, and if it's because of race, color, language, finances, whatever it is, there has to be an in for every single person. And to me, it's so important that we help people understand that. That you don't have to have every student union for black, brown, blue, green, but you have to be able to include every kid's view because they do matter, and people need to see that. And like being in South Sac, we we don't have the same things that some of the other schools nearby us do, and the gym equipment and the this and that, and like when we go play volleyball and basketball against some of these schools, like, whoa. But you know what, we're giving our kids a chance. They are playing volleyball, they are playing basketball, they do have a type of uniform, right? And everyone does have an opportunity. So I think that's really important. But it's also important that losing is a reality, right? Not everyone can be a winner. And I don't think at all times we don't all have to get participant badges, because in life, people win and people lose. Right. But I think it's important for us to understand the viewpoint that everyone has to be given a gosh darn chance.
Yeah, I love that. I have one last question, Jeff, man. And I loved everything you said. What are you telling new educators that are coming into the field? You've got some experience, my friend, sort of like me. I'm not priding myself, but I have 30 years in the business and I'm still learning. So what are you telling a new teacher coming into the business today? What words of advice are you going to give after all the titles and all the roles you've had?
First of all, I'm not going to give them any advice except thank you. I'm going to make sure I tell them thank you. I'm going to tell them to ask for help. I'm going to tell them to be okay with being tired and being frustrated. But if you are in it for wanting to have something that's going to help the betterment of kids, and you're going to put your heart and soul in there, go for it. So advice, you can't do it all. Ask for help always. That doesn't mean you're weak. That means you're amazing. Listen, learn, and then for me, hang out with other teachers that you think kick ass and learn from them.
Right there.
Yeah, like have them come in, like that's the thing too, is like I always say that, hey, Chris, let me cover your class for 30. Why don't you go watch X, Y, or Z? Or I'm going to go cover X, Y, Z so they can come watch you. And it's a little daunting to get people to watch
Chris,
us.
can we say that on this show? Who are the kick-ass teachers out there, and go watch them?
Yeah,
I think we can. We don't have
a lot of things on this show that we can't.
I love it, Jeff.
But so like, and don't be afraid. You're not going to know it all.
That's right.
And give yourself 5 years, man. If you can, give yourself a little 5-year policy, write a little note up on, your wall. In 5 years, I will look back at this and have accomplished X. You will have accomplished a ton, but don't give up. First couple of years are tough. Ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, Jeff, listening to you, I talk about this with my teachers, but I talk about it most, believe it or not, with kids that I coach. One of them's my son, right? Play AAU baseball. High level competitive. We're going to Cooperstown August 2nd. We got this massive tournament for the team. But, we talk about kids being coachable, right? And what they hear at times is, I got to fall in line. I got to listen to all the advice, and I just got to do what coach tells me. That's not what coachability is. Coachability is identifying what you're good at, identifying what you need to be better at, finding somebody you can learn from, and then apply it, and then just grind, have that positive, I can do it attitude, and get out there on the field and show it. Success or fail, but be proud, hang your head high every single day. Man, you've lit a fire in me tonight. I don't know if you can tell, I'm kind of excited and jazzed. Sunday night, but I'm supposed to be, dreading Monday morning, right?
No way.
Not after an interaction like this, baby, because we are all about getting better together. And that's what this framework was founded on. Dean, I appreciate you, brother. Jeff, I appreciate you most tonight, man. Really, we've got a great thing going here with a great collaborative effort. We're up on time, though, so we're going to have to continue our conversation on the social media platforms and DM and back and forth. On behalf of Dean Packard and our guest, Jeff Kubiak, Chris Starcheski, principal at Grafton Middle School here, Unlock the Middle, Sunday night, having a great conversation. We hope to learn together more and more on Tuesday night this week. I think, is that right?
Thursday, the Red Zone.
We're up Thursday night this week.
Thursday night, 9 o'clock.
And, we'll keep learning together, getting better. Let's go ahead and have a great week, everybody. Jeff, it was a blessing to meet with you and talk with you, my friend.
Likewise. I've had a few conversations in my few years, and I got to say, this is one of the best. You guys are amazing, and I love that we could totally just be authentic and real. Thank you very much.
It's so cool. Right there. You just said it. And there's the reason why we do what we do, Jeff. Hey, everybody listening out there, remember, you get a chance, share this out, retweet it. Again, positive ripples create growth for everybody. And it's people like Jeff Kubiak. I tell you, man, thank you so much for what you do, the role you serve in your district, and more importantly, the role you serve with your kids. Hang on for 1 second, Jeff. Everybody out there, have a great week. Make a difference for kids and keep plugging.